Well, good morning and welcome to today's Ratchet and Wrench web chat, Driving Transportation, the Role of AI in Automotive Marketing and Communication, sponsored by Cinch. I'm Chris Jones, editor in Endeavor Vehicles Repair Group, and I will be moderating this session. Before we dive into today's topic, let me explain how you can participate in this presentation. If you encounter a technical difficulty, please type your issue into the Ask a Question box, and a member of our team will assist you. You can also click on the question mark a help button in the upper right corner of the screen. We encourage your active participation throughout the event. While we will address as many questions as possible during the Q&A session, follow the main presentation. Please feel free to submit your questions at any time. Once again, all you have to do is type your question into the Ask a Question box and click the Send button. Also, please note that today's session is being recorded and will be made available on Ratchet and Wrench's website within the next week. You'll be notified by email when the archive is available. Now let's meet today's speaker. In 2017, Justin Ray founded Cinch with a drive to solve some of the toughest marketing problems businesses face. As a specialized customer data platform, Cinch helps teams understand their customers, manage marketing channels, and reach business goals, all from one platform. Today, Justin Ray leads teams of more than 30 experts at Cinch's headquarters in Draper, Utah. Cinch is utilized and trusted by more than 2,200 growing businesses across the U.S. With that, let's go ahead and kick off with Justin. Justin, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Chris. I'm excited to be here and glad to talk about something I really enjoy in data science and AI and in the automotive space especially. So we've Cinch has built its foundation in the automotive space, and we're very excited to continue to function and work with automotive shops and quick lubes. And so today, with that, we're going to really dive into a little bit of, there's a lot to dive into when it comes to AI, but today we're going to kind of scratch the surface and kind of help people understand and see the vision of what's happening and the transformations that are coming. And so the topics we'll really hit into are going to be, I'll present through, are going to be the data collection and what we're going to need to collect, how data hygiene is going to be really important to AI and being able to run data science over top of that, how AI is a portion of data science and we can use the results out of AI to create personalized communication in marketing with our customers. And so the first topic on data collection. So this one really, if you want to do AI, you got to have data. You got to be able to feed the artificial intelligence or the models that are designed around understanding the directive or the task that the data sciences or AI is designed to accomplish. You have to actually have the data that's going to be valuable to that. Now, oftentimes, as I'll talk a little bit more, as you collect that data, you might not know how valuable that one piece of data is. So collecting all the data that you can and keeping that in one place is very important. So in today's day and age, the most common place that data is being collected is at the point of the transaction, right? The vehicle comes into the shop, comes into the bay. We're collecting information on the vehicle. We're collecting information on the customers, looking at understanding, their name, the first name, last name, email, phone number, the VIN, the year, make, and model of the vehicle, any mileage information on that the vehicle currently is at. And we're collecting all of that data and bringing it in. Now, one of the things that's really cool about how technology is changing and advancing forward now is that more and more cars are connected and they have that data being captured inside the vehicle in ways that can be transmitted and shared back to other apps or to your bays as you come in different scenarios that are set up there. And that can give you full information on, not just the miles that are being driven, but when was the last time certain things were updated or changed can be added into there. The ability to forget the check engine codes can be pulled directly wirelessly from the vehicle or transmitted back to the vehicle owner's app. And so these types of things are new aspects that are coming into the world that are data points that we're able to collect and capture a lot more quickly and easily. And so once we're collecting more and more of this data and it's becoming a lot easier to collect the data in ways that are automated, it means that there needs to become new steps for data cleansing and data hygiene. And so what this really means is that when that data comes into the data source, you first off might have multiple different sources out there, right? And we need to bring all of those data sources into one place. And once we do, we need to be able to match that information up and make sure that we know that, hey, this record over here matches this record over here, and they give us a greater picture and understanding. But as we go through that process, we might have scenarios where, oftentimes there's somebody's fat fingering a transaction or information as it goes into the database, right? And this might often happen. One of the places we see this most often is with email addresses or with mileage that goes into the vehicle or goes in on the vehicle. And so if you get a bad email address, well, you can't communicate with the customer, and that creates some complications there. But if you have a bad mileage and you punch in the wrong number on the miles that the car's at, you could potentially change very wildly the predictions on the vehicle and when they're due for certain services or communications from that. So you have to have these processes where you're matching the data together and you're cleansing and putting together that data in a much more valuable way to ensure that it can be ingested and used in the predictive models that are going to be used to understand that consumer behavior. And so on top of that, not just having a machine process for cleansing, but there's really good practices, and we won't go into that today, but in hygiene inside of the shop on how you're inputting that data and making sure that your team really understands the value of this data and how it's going to help you have a competitive advantage over top of other competitors by collecting that data and having it input accurately. And so, as I mentioned, this is going to really help us predict the driving behaviors on customers, understanding how many miles they're driving in the day, what vehicles they're driving more often. And those types of things are going to go into the models to help better understand what the data science models to better understand that predictive behavior. And so one of the things I wanted to share is just a couple of terms in the AI world and help you better understand what these terms are. So everybody's heard AI, and AI stands for artificial intelligence. There's also AGI, which stands for artificial general intelligence. And there's a little difference between the two of those. Artificial general intelligence is really trying to mimic human interaction, the way that we think and that we talk and we interact with things, which is often around in the AI world is around these types of things, is mimicking in the interactions or the way that human beings function. But then you have things like machine learning, where we're really just trying to get a predictive model. You might hear of machine learning as ML. And that's really just trying to get a result where we can have a better understanding or higher accuracy on our prediction on something that's going to take place. Another term or that you might hear is NLP, which is natural language processing. And the idea here is just really teaching a computer how to ingest and understand the natural language that we as human beings would speak or write, and then being able to return results from that. And then a subset of this is LLM, or large language model. And a lot of people are very familiar with ChatGPT at this point. And ChatGPT is a great example of an LLM that's using NLP. So LLMs are a subset of NLP that really have the ability to predict. Think about it as a really great autocorrect or predictive type ahead tool, and it gives you the ability to really understand, or the computer to understand what you're saying, and then generate the response back to that actually makes sense based on the content that's there. And so something like ChatGPT is going to use a lot of aspects of LLM, some aspects of NLP as it's getting smarter and broader. It has like sentiment analysis and things like that are going into it. And so those things are all coming together to help us better understand our customers at this point, and making sure that we have good hygiene. So as we bring all of this data that's coming in, we're cleaning that data, we're putting it together. There's a really key aspect in AI, which is the AI flywheel, or iterations. Every time you have a new data point that comes in, an AI will have the ability to run a new calculation over top of that to better understand did we get right the prediction we made? No, we didn't. Okay, let's look back and see what things were different and see if we can make that prediction more accurate next time. And so having multiple iterations over top of the data and looking at that data that's coming in become really key to understanding and getting more and more accurate with it, right? Going back to the ChatGPT example, right, there was ChatGPT 1, then there was ChatGPT 2, 3, 3.5, and now we're on 4. And there's iterations that are continuing to go after that. Each of those are new, where the model has found ways that it can improve the way that it is actually calculating the responses that need to come out. And that happens because it gets more and more iterations. As ChatGPT got more and more people signing up and using it, it became more popular, had more data points that were coming into it, more people responding to it, and how it's functioning. And so, to put the plug in here for us at Cinch, what we are doing is we actually bring all of that data into one place. So we're connecting to all the different data sources that might be in your shop or across your entire company. We're bringing that in, trying to understand better the customer, running our data science models on it, and then automating communication to your customers, and then putting that back into our own data science models to expand our AI that then gives you a better chance next time. Every time you have iterations at nailing the experience for the customer and creating a really unique, personalized experience as the customers are coming back into the door. And so this is what this will do for you, and how this will move forward in changing the automotive space is by really creating a personalized experience and helping to understand the forecast on when customers should be coming back in, understanding how they're going to come back in, and where you need to pull levers to be able to help change the impact that you want to have in your company, and having that a lot more accurate and a lot more in a place where a company that doesn't necessarily have a data scientist or doesn't have a marketing team would be able to look at this, and a single owner can start asking questions to an AI to better understand what are those levers, how can I go change those and impact those, and that's really the long future of where this is going to go. But in the short term, what this is going to do is it's going to give us the ability to have a lot more personalization. I'll have the ability to write an email that I want to send out for St. Patrick's Day, and better understand what are going to be the key things that I want to put out there. Or as we do a lot of at Cinch, is we have a lot of machine learning that helps us predict certain things on customers and change the personalization inside of emails, the pricing sensitivity, what type of discounts and coupons do I need, the timing of those vehicles and when they're going to return. And those are becoming more and more accurate with customers and making it more effective when you're reaching out to them across multiple different channels. And so that's really what I wanted to dive into for the start of this presentation, and we'll jump into a little discussion at this point.
No, great presentation, Justin. Thank you so much. AI is such a big thing, such a big topic right now, and appreciate you breaking that down. So first off, let's talk about the data. What data is valuable, and when or what situation is it most valuable?
Yeah. So ultimately, there's different tasks that you're going to want to try to accomplish and use that AI for. If you are using AI specifically for marketing aspects, then number one, you got to be collecting the information on your customers to be able to communicate with them, right? I can't overemphasize that one. It's still something that tends to be forgotten or left in the dust a little bit. But when you want to then add levels of personalization to that, you want to be able to understand their vehicle. How many vehicles do they have in their house? Maybe who are the drivers of those vehicles, right? What type of driving behaviors are they an Uber or Lyft driver, or are they driving kids to soccer games all the time, right? Who's driving, what type of behaviors are in there, and that's going to change how you're going to communicate with them. If your task is trying to figure out the forecast for the business, right, you're going to want to be collecting really good, accurate data on how often people are coming in, the time between visits, and understanding that, and then what the average repair order or average ticket is, and being able to use that information to start to forecast, hey, what's July going to look like this year for our shop, right? What type of business do we expect to come in? What type of business historically have we been getting? So making sure you have a good point of sale that is tracking all the line items and giving you that data to be able to look forward to.
Okay, and how would I go about collecting that data for use? You talk about collecting. Sorry, my camera. Talk about collecting their data, their habits. Who's in the family, what they do, how they're using their vehicles. How would I get all that sensitive data from a customer?
Yeah, so most point of sale tools are really great at having that information, having a workflow to collect that as it's coming into the system. If you're looking to collect that information on maybe people getting leads and getting people to come in. There's a lot of times, high school football games, you might have a form collecting on a tablet or something out there, or you've got something on your website where you're doing some educational content on what certain services are or why they're important to your vehicle, collecting email addresses at that point, and We've got other companies that I've seen that'll do contests on a regular basis and use that to help collect information on customers and to get that in the door. As far as the financial aspects and kind of the more business and operation side of things, using surveys to better understand what the customer's responses are, using review tools and Google, getting the information back on what your customers are saying about you on Google, Facebook, Yelp, those different types of things are very important and valuable there. But yeah, there's really, like I kind of mentioned at the beginning, there's so many different places and ways that data is being collected now. You got to ask yourself, what is the task or what are the things I want to do? And sometimes that's hard, right? There's that might even be the hardest part, is like, what can it do for me and how do I jump into that?
Yeah, so it's almost a situation of what data, like you said, what data do I want? How do I want to use that data?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. What task? What do I need right now in my business? Like, what do I think I need? And how can I get an answer to that? Do I have the data that's going to feed that?
Right. So what's the best way to marry business objectives with AI?
Yeah, that's actually a really great question. So when you're thinking about business objectives these days, there are so many different, like we talked about forecasting, right? If I am concerned about how many people I need to hire, right? We're growing. We maybe just opened up a new shop and we have several more bays that we have in here. How am I going to get more people into that? Or how fast am I going to start to fill that up? What's our head count that we need to be able to do that? Those are figuring out what, the objective in that case might be growth. So now I need to forecast my growth and forecast my cash flow, right? And in regards to that, you got to understand some of your marketing aspects, right? Marketing and operations really often go very hand in hand in trying to drive that traffic and understanding the forecast and how we're going to service those customers and in the end follow through and create this feedback loop, right? And so when we're really thinking about those business objectives and trying to align those with AI, it really is trying to find a tool that's going to help you and understanding, again, those tasks that we're going to ask it, right? The business objective or the task and understanding the data is there. I'm not sure if I maybe explained that perfectly, but we can dive into that more if you.
Sure. So we all know about ChatGPT and some of its capabilities for data recall, et cetera. But what are some other types of tasks that AI can help with in the shop?
Yeah. Yep. So, you could start to really, there's some really crazy fun things that are out there these days, right? There's vision, AI vision, where it can start watching, you can put a camera up in the bay and you can start to see like, what's the time, how long, license plate detection has been something that's been around for a long time in the automotive space. But we're getting into a spot where we can start to better understand like how people are functioning inside of the bay, where they're at, how long they're in the vehicle, working with the vehicle. Things along those lines really are becoming places where AI can become really effective. There are the aspects of what's the experience of what's the customer's experience on a relative basis, right? Again, surveys and Google reviews and getting that type of feedback. The predictive models on just understanding how could we upsell with this person, right? If you understand the ICP of your customers or the ideal customer profile, right? You might have multiple profiles of your customers or some segmentation across your customers, and how you interact and the responses that you have with those customers are going to be really important. And being able to give that to the team that's in the bays and the CSAs that are working with the customers, it gives a great opportunity to be able to feed them the information they need to better interact with customers.
Okay. And of course, AI is typically now we see it more in, CRMs and CSMs, just kind of settled in as an assistant for service advisors or settled in as an assistant for a technician or an owner. But, what are ways that, you can really use AI to make money instead of costing you money or just using it strictly as just an assistant within a suite?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So when you're thinking about again, going back to those business objectives, AI can do so many different things. And I think last year, one of the things that was really interesting to me is ChatGPT really became popular. When we would talk to people about AI, people would just think, hey, at Cinch, it has AI, so it's going to do everything for me. I'm just going to give it the data and it's done, right? It's going to spit out, it's going to give me all these customers. Car count's going to go up, our ROs and average tickets are going to go up, right? But really, it comes back to those tasks, right? And understanding what making sure you have the right tool, You wouldn't go use well, you might use a wrench to pull out an air filter, but it's not necessarily the ideal to actually physically pull it out, right? You've got to use the right tools inside the bay to get the car fixed, right? The same type of thing inside of the computer and inside your software. You got to be able to choose what's the right tool to accomplish the task that I need to do today, right? And so if you're looking for sending out and communicating with your customers, you're not going to specifically go to ChatGPT and say, hey, send this out, because it doesn't have the ability to do that, right? Or if you want to do forecasting in, what do I need for inventory, you're not going to use a tool like Cinch that's going to not do anything with inventory. But if you want to reach out to your customers and personalize the communication with that, would be a great place where Cinch would step into that. So you've got to understand those different tools. And again, just going back to understanding what you want to accomplish, and looking for tools that do that, or chatting with other people in the space to understand what they're using.
Okay, so with AI, I can really dial into like the inner workings of my shop, as opposed to like it just pulling out general information from wherever. Correct? Like you talk about, you have the kind of the infinity loop graphic. So that information is being pulled from my own ecosystem, as opposed to being pulled from the general like worldwide web of information regarding auto repair shops and customer habits. Correct?
Correct. Yep. And that's what makes it so personalized, right? Is being able to connect to the systems that you have, right? The future of where things are going to go here, they're going to get really exciting, is that if, and this is not something I necessarily prepared or thought about beforehand, but if you as a shop or your business are writing down and logging all the processes that you're doing and how you interact with customers, right? You will have a great set of data that you can marry up with all of your current customer data. And if you're feeding that into an AI, that's going to be able to learn and understand that. And it's going to give even more information to your service advisors to be able to help them respond to customers, or even let an AI maybe respond to a chat online. If, a customer's like, hey, I had this experience, what can they do, and figure out how they can respond back to it based on what those processes might be. And those are some places and ways that you can start to get really exciting with it, right? Is when somebody wants to know, what's the warranty on this repair that we did, right? You have those processes all documented. You fed them to an AI. Somebody comes to your website. They ask, hey, you know what, Chris, I just got my serpentine belt changed, right? What's the warranty on that? Or whatever question they might be asking about that, you can pass that, instead of to a CSA or somebody in the shop on the phone, you can pass that into that AI and the LLM, and let that be able to start to ask the question or answer the questions back using not just that person's experience and the service that they had. Maybe they want to know, you can see the discount they had, or the time they last had that transaction, and then feed back the policies that you have as a company. Does that make sense?
It does, yes. So how about trustworthiness? How trustworthy is a lot of the AI out there today? There's a lot of products that promote AI, that use AI, but whether it's good or it's bad, but how trustworthy would you say it is?
Yeah, no, this is definitely a pretty hot question, right? Especially in light of some of the things that have happened recently with Google's Gemini and how they kept trying to update it. Yeah, it's been nightmares there. There's a lot of questions on being able to have trustworthiness with that. And I think what really, when you're thinking about the trustworthiness, is it might be a bit harder concept for a lot of people, is to understand how complex the question or what the process is trying to do, right? When we're looking at these general AIs like Google's Gemini or ChatGPT or Microsoft's Copilot, or whatever it might be, these are all really pretty complex in what they're trying to do when we're just punching in this information, right? And trying to get back some generative responses. But when it comes to using your own data in your own shop and making some machine learning predictive analysis over top of that, right? That's become really, really accurate these days, right? And very strong. And if you're, again, going back to that cleansing and the data hygiene, if you've got some good data hygiene first, and then you've got tools that are cleaning and normalizing your data in ways that make it very effective and have good matching processes, that's going to create a lot more trustworthiness on the results that come out of it, right? Garbage in, garbage out, so an old Adam, right? But it supports very true in AI.
Okay. Now I got a question that's very close to that, but I'm gonna ask it. So you talked a little bit earlier about language learning models.
Yeah.
And so within the shop, if I'm using AI, if I'm beginning to use AI integrated into my systems, how accurate, one, is it initially, and two, does it begin to learn the nuances of my shop and how we communicate amongst within the shop?
Yeah, yep, definitely. So when you're building a large language model or something in AI, you typically go through a process of training it, and the model is trained to understand how to interact with different aspects of that. But then you have what's called fine tuning or filtering that can be done on a specific local basis, right? And so that's where it would use if you're using ChatGPT, the idea of that is in one conversation, you can be talking about something very specific, and you can be giving it some information about that specific conversation, and it will use that information over and over. You can have that same type of fine tuning in a model when you're working on a specific shop, right? And just within that specific conversation, or when you're uploading your own policies or the customer information, right? If you're uploading the customer information, is going to be a little bit different. But if a customer's on the call and says, well, hey, you know what, really my favorite color is blue, right? Well, now we're fine tuning this conversation with the customer that their favorite color is blue. And I don't know what actually that has anything to do with the car. Maybe their favorite cars. Yeah, I'm totally off on that one. But yeah, that's how that would go. And it kind of helps fine tune the model and the language model to specifically respond to how that shop would function or interact with the customer.
Okay, well, great. I appreciate the presentation. I'd like to move over to some of the audience questions if you're ready for those.
Yeah, yep, fire away.
All right, so our first question is, how is individual shops' proprietary information protected in this data collection? Does AI use information from all shops, or is it just this individualized process for shops?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it definitely is going to depend. This is a question you should definitely ask yourself before you're working with the different companies. The way that often some of the best practices I've seen are when you have different levels of how that data gets used, right? The very proprietary information is going to be at the highest level of security. It's going to be shrunk down and just used specifically in one business, right? And that's going to be kind of that fine tuning aspect, right? In a broader aspect, maybe where there's less PII or personalized information, then that information might go to a broader data set and be used to help train the model at that point. This is a question that everybody dealing with AI should definitely jump in and ask. As we use AI at Cinch ourselves, and internally with our company, we have to ask that same question. There's a great debacle a year, maybe two ago, when Samsung uploaded a ton of their own information to a large public language learning model, and then everybody could ask questions about Samsung, right? And so you want to definitely avoid that type of thing. But there's a lot of good standard practices that are coming into play now in the industry to help avoid that.
Okay. Here's another question: does Cinch use external data sources such as Carfax, Census, or other public records?
We certainly can to help fine tune aspects, and those are within our company. Those are typically things that we add on to our customer processes, as they tend to have additional costs to them.
Okay. And another question: do you have any examples of other quick loops that use Cinch and AI that are seeing a difference?
Oh, we have quite a few of those. We can they're on our website. We've got some case studies of those, or some examples of customers that are using that moving forward. Most of what we have running today is more in the machine learning and side of things, doing a lot of predictive models and going that direction. But over the next year or two at Cinch, we actually have just hired on a data scientist and a couple other people. My background is in data science, so is one of our co-founders in data science and engineering, and so we're pretty versed in that, and we're just adding to the team in that side of things.
Okay. To make it easy for shops, do you interface with today's point of sale systems like Shopware?
We do. Yep. Okay. Shopware, Metric, all the bigger ones there. We especially like those that have a great API to get data in real time.
All right. Next question: are there privacy concerns regarding pulling driving behaviors from customers' vehicles without their consent?
I mean, if we were pulling it without their consent, there probably would be. But when they come into the shop and they're giving that information to you, you're getting that, right? They expect that you're going to collect their vehicle mileage, right? And they're going to, when I go in and I just got some new tires, right? And the first thing they do is they walk out to my car and they sit down and they say, okay, how many miles do you have, right? And then we go back into the computer, they punch it in, and we get that going. So I think that's a pretty clear expectation, and when you're having your car serviced.
Okay. Next question is, how much historical data is needed for AI or machine learning to really be effective, or does that matter?
That very much matters, actually. The more data you have, the more accurate it becomes, right? And this becomes a bit harder thing for a lot of people to really grasp. But the really fun thing about AI is it can find the needle in the haystack that no human is ever going to be able to find, right? And the truth is, the more data that you have, the more needles that might be in there, or the more accurate that needle might be, right? I often like to use a few different examples with that, right? But if you have, the ability to enrich your customer data with Experian or Carfax or any of these other data sets out there, there might be one data point that is truly the unique data point that decides, or is the predictive indicator of whether a customer is going to do this or they're going to do that, right? If you didn't collect that, and we don't know what that is because the computer hasn't been able to run through all the scenarios and all the different correlations between that, you're never going to be able to find that. And so the more data that you're collecting, the better off that you can potentially be. But it can also have some negative ramifications as well.
All right. And question is, what LLMs does Cinch use, and is it industry specific or more generalized?
So right now we are using ChatGPT on the back end for our LLM, and we're looking at a few additional ones that are out there. Eventually, Cinch will look at building our own LLM that's really specific to our customers' needs and uses. But right now, it's a lot easier to piggyback off of the tools that are out there, and it makes it a lot more cost effective for us to be able to pass that cost savings on to our customers.
Awesome. Well, Justin, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for answering the questions. There are others in the chat, which I'm sure you'll have an opportunity to get to post-meeting. But again, appreciate you talking about AI, the value of AI in shops, and thanks for joining us today.
Definitely. Thanks, Chris. Have a great one.
You too.